Right. Right. So I was speaking about the term black. We know that we're not black, but the man that came up with this term black was a so-called Edomite by the name of Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. He came up with these color classifications of the races, from black, what you call Negroid, white Caucasoid, yeah, he called them, you know, these different classifications based on cranium sizes, right? And we understand Africa, the word African came from a European by the name of, so-called Edomite by the name of Leo Scipios Africanus. His brother actually named Africa. That's one thing about the so-called white man. It says that in Job 9:24, he'll conquer land and he'll name himself after the land, right? Just like when you're dealing with Alexandria, Egypt, you know, Alexandria, Virginia, Charlotte, Carolina, Georgia after Prince George, Maryland after Virgin Queen Mary, you know what I'm saying? Virginia, Maryland, that's the Virgin Mary, right? So when we come into the knowledge of who we are, we not only do we go into doing a diligent search on how these names came about, but we're gonna have to question, you know, where do I get my name from? You know, and then what do? You bethink yourself. You remember who you truly are, because the so-called white man isn't powerful enough to keep you in darkness forever. There's something that's more powerful than the so-called white man. He's a creature, but he has a creator, and this creator actually gave him the authority, as pursuant to Psalm 17:13, to, you know, lord over us. And the Most High uses him as our whooping stick. I mean, whenever we get spanked throughout the dispensation of time, the Most High can use anything. The weather, he can use your health, he can give you the plague in your mind. But here within this construct, he set up over us a wicked oppressor, you know, that has no love for us, when pissed on us if we were on fire. But now with the Most High determination. But real quick, I want to go into the so-called white man's origin story, right? A lot of people say that he comes from the caves and the hills, right? Because the word Caucasian means cave dweller. But the book of Job tells us that he wasn't always up there in isolation, right? He comes from a Hebrew mother and a Hebrew father, and he was ran up into those hills and cave sides, and he came right back into rulership. Because we understand just through genetics, a so-called black man and a so-called black woman can lay down and have what you call a recessive child, or an albino, a child that doesn't have the necessary melanin content in their eyes, their skin, and their hair, right? So we understand that the higher can create the lower, right? So when I say that's our evil twin brother, you can kind of already see how that is possible. This is kind of giving you this is kind of easing you into what you're about to hear, and which is the origins of the so-called white man, right? Because you got to understand, I just want to pre-qualify what I read. This is post-flood, the white man coming back into power, or the white man coming back into the earth. Because with the great flood, you had Noah and 4 sons. Salakia, Noah, he had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes. Ham is the progenitor of what you call Put, the Canaanites, Nelson Mandela people, the Ethiopians, what you call Cush, and also Mizraim, or the so-called Egyptians that are now living in the land of Sudan. So the Egyptians of antiquity, they're not in the land of Egypt, they're not in the Giza Plateau, they're in the interiors of Africa, right? Another son of Ham, like I said, Cush, those are the Ethiopians. Those are our enemies in the earth as well. You see what I'm saying? The Canaanites, the so-called South Africans, those are not our people. And also Put. So when Noah got off of the ark, there were 8 people. It was Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. So once they got off of the ark, there were no white people, no so-called pale or leprous people on the earth, because the Bible calls the plague of albinism, which is a genetic mutation. You know, they have high chance of catching melanoma skin cancer by standing in the sun. They get a redneck, their skin peel like a damn snake, right? They have a higher, because on God's earth, this is a carbon-based planet, meaning the sun is essential for everything to grow, right? Carbon, sun. So everything on that periodic table for it to thrive, the sun is essential, it's carbon-based. So without the sun, this place wouldn't thrive. Everything that's on this planet that God created, it thrives. It thrives in the sun. Oh yeah, that's exactly what chemtrails do. The brother said, "Why do you think they're hiding the sun every day?" Right? And they're saying that the UV rays from the sun are harmful for the global population. Now we understand what's good for us is not good for them. We're different, right? In every aspect, there are polar opposite. You know, and the scriptures are going to get into the different diversities. How they're one different end of the spectrum, and we're a whole different end of the spectrum. You see what I'm saying? And that's how the Most High made it. And the scriptures are going to talk about how us and the so-called white man, our evil twin brother, were fighting in the womb of our mother. So let me go into that story right now. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 25 and verse 21, going into the origins of the so-called white man, or as the Bible calls them, Edomites. It reads, "And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren." Barren means she couldn't have birth. He said Isaac entreated the Lord. It said, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. So they went to a prophet to see why she couldn't conceive. The Most High gave him the desires of his heart. His wife, in old age, became pregnant with a child. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. Right? So she's having birthing pains. She knows that it's a blessing, but those had to be some serious contractions for her to go and inquire with the prophet. It said, and the Lord said unto her, "Two nations are in thy womb." So even though they have the same maternal and paternal lineage, it said that they're going to be separate nations. Right? Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. Right? It said, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people. Well, that's one characteristic on how one of the nations will be separate from the other people. It said that one nation, one of these children, is going to be stronger more physically. He's going to be doing 360s on the goddamn basketball court. He's going to be running the 40-yard dash in 3.8 seconds flat. He's going to be able to endure 500 years of the worst atrocities that you can impose on a man and still be passing by talking about God bless you. You know what I'm saying? look, he's going to be able to mentally endure some of the worst conditions, live under the worst conditions, and still thrive. They still, well, look, even though we put the worst conditions on them, they still are having babies so much that we gotta scheme and put these Planned Parenthood clinics in there. We gotta deceive their women to join other women, deceive the men to join other men. Why? Because even in our lower oppressed state, we still thrive. Even in ancient Egypt, because this isn't our first bondage, our first captivity. Even in ancient Egypt, we went into Egypt, I think 30 souls, but we came out a great multitude. Because even in the country, it's a nasty reputation that it ain't nothing to do in the country but eat and have sex. When you're at the bottom, you know, the Most High gives us two things to endure this captivity. And that's wine, you could get a little drink, a little sip to make your heart merry, or you could bust a nut, woman, right? So if you're at the bottom, trust me, you can still get a temporary sense of pleasure. Like I said, with wine, it's gonna wear off, and also coochie, right? So this is why the Lord's people, no matter what conditions they put us in, they've always had to deal with us wisely, because when we are at the bottom, we still are producing and procreating at a level higher than them. The so-called white man, right? Weaker. They have a worldwide negative birth rate, meaning they're not having babies to sustain the amount of people that are dying. They're facing genetic annihilation if we don't even bother them. Right. If we just leave them alone and have them in isolation, they'll die off. Because the so-called white woman, right, she is not as fertile as sisters. You see what I'm saying? A lot of them, they're having to do all type of artificial insemination. They have to adopt. You know, they have small families, 1, 2 children. You see what I'm saying? And that's something that our women have never had. You know, you kiss them and they get pregnant. You see what I'm saying? When the so-called white woman, you know, the white man, if you look at the commercials in the media, why is he always having to have a so-called black woman on a commercial with him? Because he understands whatever he put his seed in, that's going to further his race and his nation. He understands that you can't mix seeds. If you plant an apple seed with an orange seed, you're going to have two trees grow out of that hole. You won't have an apple-orange tree growing together. So it's no such thing as mixed. You know, a lot of our people don't understand if a so-called black man lay down with a so-called white man, that child is not mixed. That child is of the father's seed. Although it will take on different characteristics of his mother, the essence of who he is his spirit. That's connected with his father. So in this society, a lot of people that hate themselves, right, they black than a motherfucker, but they always want to bring some Latin, German, Irish, Italian lineage because they want to act as if they mix. They don't want to, you know, wear the whole stigma of being black because they understand in this society is negative. You know what I'm saying? But here it says, and the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elders shall serve the younger. So whichever one comes out first, right? This is to be spiritually discerned. Whichever one comes out first is going to be a servant of the younger, right? So just pay attention. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Right. And the first came out red. The first, it said the elders shall serve the younger. Now, it's describing them, not as white, but as the Bible describes them accurately, right? And the first came out red, all over, like in hairy garment. So it described his color and his texture. This motherfucker red, as they are today, and hairy. Just like the whole caveman thing, grunting and all of that stuff. Them niggas came up out of them caves, hairy. Being up in those cold climates and elevations, though their body had started to do what? Adapt to it before they came back down. Hey, exactly. You know what I'm saying? They go swimming in ice water. You know, even the ice bath. Your dream vacation would be somewhere tropical, a Caribbean, subtropical climate. They'll go to, where would they go? Alaska. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the spirit bears witness with their spirit that that's their homeland. You know, these are the environments that they're indigenous to, right? All right, so it says, and the first came out red all over like in hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, right? So this is the progenitor of the so-called white man. Esau in the Hebrew, which means a Shashua, which means wasted away is he. What's wasted away on the so-called white man? That pigmentation. He's a clean leopard, as the Bible calls it in the book of Leviticus. Right? The blood shows forth through his skin. Right? The melanin content, although he does have melanin, he doesn't have the melanin content to protect him against the harmful UV rays of the sun. Like I said, if he stands in the sun, he'll catch melanoma skin cancer. A redneck is a white man that stands in the sun to the point that he gets sunburned. SPF 50 and all of that shit, they gotta smack on themselves just to lay in the sun. The white bitch, she gotta go and get an artificial sun, which is what? The tanning bed. Right? Because if they go stand in that sun for too long, if that bitch dozes off up underneath that sun, she'll wake up with a big ass boil on her back that she gotta pop a week later. And like I said, on a carbon-based planet, they haven't been given the natural, they haven't been endowed with the ability to have a relationship with nature. Give me some. Give me some. Give me some. Why? Because they are against nature. They're going to the earth and rape it of its oil called fracking, when that oil is intended for the tectonic plates inside the earth to pass without it being earthquakes and things like that. They go into the water and they over-harvest the fish. Over-harvest even the abominable creature that the Most High needs at the bottom to keep the shit clean. We need lobsters. We need oysters, mussels, and we appreciate them. We're not supposed to eat them, but they have a very valuable purpose within that ecosystem, right? When the lawful fish shit down, somebody's supposed to keep that shit clean. Just like the ants on the land, just like a pig, just like the vultures, right? The Most High, he appoints animals and he appoints different creatures to play a role within this ecosystem, right? So it can run harmoniously. a symbiotic relationship. Everything's supposed to work together, right? To mainly beautify the earth that the Most High gave us for our sake, as it says in the book of 2nd Esdras, but mainly because they're his creatures. You're not just supposed to go and shoot a deer for sport. You got to understand, are you that deer's creator? Even the Native Americans, when they did hunt animals, they respected and appreciated that that animal had the same creator as them. So they approached it with a very humble, contrite, respectful approach, even to killing animals. Every aspect of the animal had to be used, right? We're not doing this just to throw the meat away and put a trophy, a head on my wall. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we like, damn, that's a beautiful deer. That's a beautiful, I would have had that as a pet. When the so-called white man would drive to Africa, pay a premium just to go on a reservation, go on a safari and kill a lion, just so he could stuff it and bring it back to his house. When we looking at it like that's our pets, we want to go to the zoo and free all those animals. They in bondage, they in captivity, right? Even the killer whales, you know, they were talking about how the whales deal with depression, how they communicate with each other, how they're intelligent creatures, and how the killer whale, when it's in captivity, his fin kind of flops over, you know, to represent that they're even being affected by being in captivity. You know, they understand that, you know, in the wild, they would swim tens, hundreds of miles a day. Now you got them in the Georgia aquarium with a cracker riding his back, you know, on some Free Willy shit. So we understand that even the animals, nature, the air, the water, right? It's all been affected by the so-called white man being in rulership and being in authority. Now, if you were to take a sip out of the water fountain, it has all type of chemicals. You know what I'm saying? Things that will affect your psychology and your neurological system, your cognitive function. You know, what's one thing that's common in the water, right? Flint, Michigan. It slips me. The numbing agent. They put it in water to. I can't think of it, Lord willing, it comes to me. But for you to have to go and buy water out of the store, when God gives us rain, you should be able to filter the water, but you have to get permits to collect the rain and filter the water. Otherwise, you'll be hit with fines and citations. Right there's a guy that actually had a clean water machine. His name was Moses West, right? He actually is a former military veteran. And he came up with this machine and it works. It pulls moisture out of the air. You know, the air is like CO2, but a certain aspects of the air is water. Yeah. But he has a machine wherein you can extract up to, I think, 800 gallons of water a day out of thin air. Oh, wow. And he was going to Flint, Michigan, where they were having a water crisis with the lead and all the different impurities in the water. And he was saying, to combat, you are not having clean pipes, clean water. Y'all can not only do y'all have to not pay for water, but it's a machine that makes it out of thin air. Do you know that his machine was sabotaged? Somebody went to the machine. Look, and he said, and when he was complaining, he said that whoever sabotaged his machine has a proficient knowledge of the complexity of what this machine did. This wasn't just some, you know, 2-bit Joe Dirt cracker coming to sabotage what I'm doing. This was a concerted effort, right? Because, you know, they even have the knowledge and the wisdom on how they can heal the earth. But if they can't make money off of it, they don't give two shits about it. They want to, like I said, leverage air as a commodity. You know, a CO2 emissions tax. That's what it is. You're charging people to breathe air. They were even saying sex, that when you have sex, you emit a certain level of CO2. So ultimately, the so-called white man plans on chipping the general population to number the people. It talks about the mark of the beast in the book of Revelations, chapter 13, verse 16. But even then, he'll be able to know how much energy you're exerting and putting limitations and restrictions on that. This is what they plan and what they intend, right? To actually just like they're doing now, how they rule over us, but they want to be able to see your purchases, when you purchase, where you're at, your medical records. Oh yeah, but you can see right now the chip that they have in a car. That wasn't there 5 years ago. That wasn't even in our vernacular. They weren't even a chip reader. But now they're laying the infrastructure that will support the general population being chipped. And Lord willing, we could get around to that warning, because that's a major end time prophecy that I want you to be aware of. Because there are a lot of people that teach the Bible, but they don't teach that aspect of the Bible. You know, what is the mark of the beast? And how will the mark of the beast affect me? What do I need to do to avoid taking the mark of the beast? Right? But let me just stay on Esau real quick. It said, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau, which means wasted away is he. His pigmentation is melanin content. And after that, his brother came out. And his hand took the hold of Esau's heel, which is symbolic for us. We're gonna be the ones to take him out of power, right? Not the Most High coming through the clouds. He's gonna pour out his spirit on us to execute the judgments written, us. And I could get those precepts as well, right? Zechariah 9 and 12, Ezekiel 25 and 12. We're gonna be magnified, right? Jeremiah 51 and 20 said that we're the Most High's battle axe and his weapon of war, right? Isaiah 41 and 14 calls us, yeah, if Exodus 15 and 3 says God is a man of war, this is our Father. We are warrior class people. And the thing is, we know that, but we only have the desire in this time to be warlike with our people. When the so-called white men come around, that's when we on our best behavior. That's when we want to be polite and courteous and act like we've been to charm school. That warrior persona, we drop that off when we come around the nations. But once you said not you, but when we come around each other, like I said, that tender, delicate, loving nature, now that's when we want to be at war with one another. And that's a curse as well, you know, for us going off as far as obeying the Lord's law, statutes, and commandments, right? Because in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, from Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15, on down to verse 68, it tells us the curses that we'll be living under. And one of those curses is us having an evil eye towards our brother, the women having an evil eye towards their husbands, and the children don't respect the elders. Men will cross and double cross each other in a second. That's a negative aspect of us being pushed into captivity, right? But there is a remnant of us that are doing what? Bethinking ourselves, remembering who we are and coming back into the knowledge. We know who our enemy is now. We know who our brother is now. So when the scriptures say forgive your enemy, that's not that Martin Luther King shit. Why would you forgive somebody that hasn't even asked for your forgiveness? That's called foolish. Right. That's called insane, right? But as far as your brother, if your brother do you wrong and he can admit that he's wrong, that's what the scripture means by forgive those enemies. Those of your nation that are repentant, right? Because we need mercy, right? But as far as knowing what a master is, serve and obey your masters. That's what the so-called white man used in slavery at a time when it was illegal for us to read, to keep us subservient, right? Why did he make it illegal for us to read? If you got caught reading the Bible, you'll get your tongue cut out your mouth, right? Yeah, I mean, if you got caught reading during slavery, if you got caught reading the Bible, because what you're reading, you can't utter that to anybody else, right? That's the story of Nat Turner. Nat Turner, he knew how to read, and he read with
That's the one that used to kill white folks, right?
Well, when the narrative says that, you know, he started to read the Bible that was presented to him, but he started to read it with understanding, right? He started to read it with understanding the way that it was supposed to be conveyed. Right. We read it with understanding.
So we got real angry, right?
Right, even though what he did, he ended up dying, and a lot of people that weren't even involved ended up dying. Correct. Because even though he had understanding and he had zeal, what he did was out of season.
Correct, it was. You kill the white people, your ass I know they killed that, that's how he feel. That's how he feel, that's how niggas feel.
All right, you said, say that one more time. No, I'm listening to you because I just want to get, you know, y'all words on camera, because both of y'all are adding to the...
What he did was out of vengeance, and vengeance is not what God is about.
I do that now. I say, well, okay, you can have it, and I guarantee you, either I see the vengeance, or when I don't see it, I do it something I don't supposed to see. But you ain't gotta do nothing to nobody. God will take care of it. That's what he say, vengeance is mine. I would let God take care of it. That's in anything. That's what that Turner did for me. He's like, fuck it. That's what he said in his mind. I'm tired of getting harmed, tired of getting raped. And he said, fuck, he was angry. That's how black people are there. We're angry. But the reason why it's like that because God put us in slavery because we didn't follow the law. Period.
The scripture says that it's a righteous thing with our power to repay tribulation to them that trouble us.
Right.
Right? Just real quick, I want to give you this scripture because our God, he's a man of war. And to understand what is justice. If somebody does you wrong, right? If they do you wrong for no reason, that's called oppression. Right? That's to oppress you. I haven't done nothing wrong, but I'm getting wrong. That's oppression. Right? But when you receive a judgment for the wrong that you've done, that's called justice. And we serve a just power. Right? And I just want to give you this precept real quick just so you can understand the true nature of our power. Right? He's chastened us, that's why he's brought us low. But the nation that he's used to punish us, he's going to give us the power to execute the judgments written, which is to do what? Repay them back double for everything that they've done to us.
He's on the way.
Right? This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16, and it says, therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all they that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. Right? So that's letting you know that fairness, payback, recompense is a part of the gospel.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I know that.
Right? This is what the Bible preaches, right? Let me get this real quick in the book of Zechariah, chapter 25, verses 12. Because what has been done to us, right? He still have to pay a judgment for it.
Oh yeah.
Right? For you to think that God has forgotten about us and we're just going to be up underneath their thumb forever, this is why we're coming out with the gospel, which is the good news, that we won't be perpetual slaves, and the very people that put us into captivity, they will go into captivity, right? As pursuant to Revelation 13 and 9, right? And if the master's not here, guess who we're going to throw in captivity in their place? His children, right? Let me get this real quick in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 21. Because what happened to the master that enslaved us, raped us, castrated us on a plantation? He died with great wealth, and he passed that down to his children as an inheritance. So how will he be judged? Right? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14. Isaiah, chapter 14 and verse 21, and it says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Right? So it says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise or possess the land.
I'm going to go, let me
right?
ask you a question.
Let me give you one more. Right? This is Revelation 13 and 9, because a lot of people say they know the Lord, but they don't know his ways. They don't study these scriptures. Right? This is what plantation Christianity is pushing.
Correct.
You commit a crime, you go to court, and you throw yourself at the mercy of the court.
Correct.
Call that cracker your honor. Right. But what's been done to us, we're supposed to just lay down and let that bygones be bygones. That means that God is not a God of justice, which he is.
Correct.
Right? We get justice executed on us every day.
Right.
Right from 8 a.m. Monday through 5 a.m. Friday.
Well, let me ask you one question.
Real quick, let me give this precept. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the faith and the patience of the saints. Right? Do you know who the saints are, brother? Because they'll tell you Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, any old heathen is a saint, right? According to the Bible. Let me get this in Psalms 148 and 14 for you real quick. Because it says, this is the faith and the patience of the saints. Who are the saints? Right? This is Psalms 148 and 14. It says, he exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord. Right? No, the saints. It says, who are the saints? It says, he exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. So who's waiting for the judgment to fall upon the so-called white people? Right? A lot of these heathen nations, they don't care. As long as they're not at the bottom with the niggas, we cool finding a nice comfortable spot up underneath the white man nuts. Right. But we've been the only ones that have been uncompromising, right? The reason why these nations are able to come here and seek opportunity is because during the 50s and 60s, during the civil rights legislation, we had immigration legislation passed. Not because we thought they would come over here and not ally and join us to fight the white man. We thought that they would join us, but now they got their own little enclaves, you know, little Italy, little China, the Africans, see how they do us? Because we are the saints. The Most High is gonna use his people not only within the confines of Babylon, but also scattered across the four corners of the earth.
Everybody know who we is but we.
Can I bring that out for you real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Psalms 83:3. This is why we out here. Unlike the Christian church, we not taking up 3-4 offerings. We're not having praise and worship. We're not trying to give you this sensationalism, hand clapping, foot stomping. We giving scriptures. Why? Because the Heavenly Father is dealing with men. He said, the sheep of my pasture are men. Right? 1 Corinthians 11 said the head of every woman is the man. Why are the woman out of order? We got to take accountability, brothers. Because most brothers, right, submission, sub, meaning under mission, the rule. What mission you going to put on? You got to give a righteous law, statutes, and commandments. Otherwise, what is going to sustain the relationship? Nothing. If God ain't at the center of it, then it's not going to work out, right? You can't be unequally yoked with these wicked assholes either, right? That don't have the heart and the mind to please and fear God, right? Psalms 83:3 says, for lo, thine enemies have made a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Listen to this. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Don't call yourself anything but an Israelite. Anything but an Israelite, right? For they have consulted together with one consent, meaning all the other 17 nations that come out of Adam, because there are 18 nations that come out of Adam. The 17 nations that come out of Adam, I don't care if it's the United Nations, the Council of Foreign Relations, the G20 Summit, Bohemian Grove. It said that the nations have consulted together with one consent, meaning they could come together and work together, right? You can see the Chinese could work with, they could work together. They could get along as long as we're not in the mix, because they said, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, we were going into the Edomites, right? The Edomites, that's the so-called white man.
I didn't know that. I thought it was Gentile.
Well, let me go back into Genesis 25 and 25. This is where me and the brother were before you came up. And we're just going into the so-called white man. He's not white, we know our colors, but we're going into his biblical nationality. Because there's no white race or black race in the Bible. That's just a descriptive term. Right. As far as men come from men, and that's who names the nation. Right? If they're Moabites, the Chinese are Moabites, because they come from a man named Moab. Right? Jacob's name was changed to Israel. That's why we're not called Jacobites. We're known as Israelites because we come from Abraham, Isaac, and his son Jacob. Right? It says here, as far as the so-called white man, I'm going to move real quick.
Right.
It says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So the white man who's known as an Edomite, Edom is Esau. He's described in the Bible as coming out as red and hairy. When you see the white man, that's what it is, right? He's pink, which is a derivative of red, right? And there, when you see them, a lot of times they are hairy, right? Just like their forefather. And it said, and after that, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, right? That word Jacob, in the Hebrew, it's Yaquab, which means to supplant. You know what it means to supplant, right? Like be slick. It's in our nature.
Correct. To be siced. Yeah.
Swindle.
Yes. We do it. I do it. Every black man.
It's in us. To supplant. We very slick. You know what I'm saying? A nigga come inside the house, steal some shit and help him look for it.
Yeah, you know it. Steal your car and say, did you do it? Yeah.
I mean, not you, but it says in Jeremiah 4:22 that our people are wild to do evil. To do good, they have no knowledge. So our people don't have to be taught to be slick, but they do have to be.
It's in their bloodline.
Well, this is what I'm saying. They have the knowledge of wickedness, but they need to learn the knowledge of righteousness. They got to know how to rebuke. They have to learn how to rebuke that wickedness in them. Because if you don't have a standard in which to rebuke yourself, you're going to be led by your heart's every lust. It's nothing that's inside of you saying, don't do that. This is why people need to fear the Lord, and they need to know what it is.
That's why everybody killing everybody, because they're listening to the devil, correct?
They got demons on it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right. So it said, and after that, his brother came out, and his hand took the hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, which means to supplant. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Right? That word cunning, you know what it means? Skillfully deceitful. Meaning, I can lay over there in them bushes, spray some deer piss on me, go to Adventure Outdoors, you know what I'm saying, Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's. They got whole industries, right? They're known as a man of the field, right? No, I'm saying the so-called white man, right? Because it said, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. So
like they are now, they go to catch deer, kill rabbits, like what Crocodile Dundee do. They good at game hunting.
Steve Irwin, he got killed by a stingray.
He wasn't scared of stingray. The stingray killed his ass.
But that's the Most High making mockery of him. Sirach 39:28 said there'll be spirits that are created for vengeance. Right? Let me get that real quick, and I'll just jump back to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right? The Bible says there'll be spirits that are created for vengeance, and it's going to speak on animals. Your whole life is being a crocodile hunter, fucking with crocodiles and alligators, and the stingray ends up sticking that barb in your damn shit.
That's where you die. That's fucked up.
But that's to denote he's a man of the field. If I give either one of y'all brothers $1 million, y'all gonna be somewhere air conditioned with hoes, and y'all preferred alcohol. Y'all gonna be traveling.
Looking like Puffy.
Y'all gonna have on the finest silk. Y'all gonna be in the finest environments, eating the finest food. I mean, you're gonna be doing something constructive. The brother said he'll open a business, but he's not gonna be out mud flapping in 4x4s, and you know what I'm saying?
Or trying to get a ranch.
I mean, that's honorable if you get a ranch.
But that's what they do. They get something that'll have, like they have ranch with some animals on it, so you want to go buy food. You get what I'm saying?
Even in the city, the so-called white man will hop on a 10-speed and be riding that shit through the middle of traffic. Right. Like he's just a man in the field. He's an outdoorsman motherfucker. But he said that he's a cunning hunter. Cunning means skillfully deceitful. He can lay right there and trick a deer. Look, get 2 pieces of wood together. Make that deer think it's a mating call. That deer, he could trick a deer to walk up on him. Oh shit!
They have no fear of nothing. When they don't.
Yeah, he's a proud. No, not even us, because the scripture said that he's a proud man, right? He's so proud that he really thinks that he believes in this shit. Because if he believed truly that we were better, more powerful, that we were God's people, he'd just hand over the shit. His pride has blinded him into thinking like he's actually, get ready for slavery, Esau, get ready for slavery. I mean, we come out here to prophesy to the nations as well.
They fight all in the hood like they don't see.
I mean, but you got to understand, that was just a sign that Most High just gave to confirm the word. That they men in the field, out of the whole entire Atlanta. Why would you be riding through the hoods of the West End? This is the equivalent to them going to the zoo. It's an outer body experience. Ooh, today I did something exhilarating. We rode to the West End. We passed homeless people.
Jumped out of an airplane.
Ooh, I wheelied over a pile of shit. I dodged a couple rats. A couple gangbangers actually tried to. It's an outer body experience, like going on a safari. Yeah, it's always that was like going on a safari for him. Just like, it was a gorilla that barked at me. He told me I'm going into slavery. So he going back home to show how courageous he is. Right. With us, this is our home, where we eat, sleep, play, go to church, worship, our families up through here. He has no business up through here. But with him being a man of the field, probably here on vacation. Atlanta's the world's busiest airport after the 1996 Olympics. Right? So all nations are coming here. Right? And when they see us, all they have to really put in context is what they saw on television, through the media, the propaganda. So he's not stopping to interact with us. Neither do we want to interact with him. But with him being a man of the field, he's everywhere he's not supposed to be. His homeland, the Caucasus Mountain in Georgia, Russia, they're not there. They're in every other land.
That's why they call them Caucasus Mountain.
They're in the Caucasus Mountain, and the word Caucasian means cave dweller.
So he was in caves while we was in Africa, correct?
Not Africa, but he was ran into the caves, right? That's our brother. The Bible just talks about the so-called white man's progenitor, Esau, being born. because there was a great flood. And the only people that survived the flood were who? Noah and his sons. 8 people survived the flood. And none of the people that hopped off the ark had leprosy or the plagues of the flesh, albinism, melanoma.
So you saying Esau wasn't on the boat?
No, there was.
He wasn't born yet.
He wasn't born yet. There weren't.
Serious?
Look, at the point that the Most High flooded this earth, the only people that survived were people of color.